Hi, everyone. Welcome back to episode 4 of Rapid Fire with Damien and myself. And today we got a good lineup. We got some topics, a brief market update, and just kind of talking through the state of affairs. But first, I wanted to bring everyone's attention to our YouTube channel. We do have a playlist with all the educational videos. We put out a lot of market videos that people tend to like, but we have started to record more educational topics. And most recently, we had an interview with Mac Brillhart, one of the estate planning attorneys that we use a lot in the office. So be sure to check that out if you haven't already. And we'll probably also chop it up into some more digestible, smaller videos as well.
Yeah, I
Um,
think Ben will give people an award if they make it through Mac's video. Although he's entertaining. I think it's about 45 minutes long. So
47
47,
minutes.
right?
Yeah.
But there's also ones on there about qualified charitable distributions, Roth conversions, and we plan on just again some more educational content on there as it comes along.
Yeah, so with that said, let's kind of cover some market stuff. So, Damien, what's on your mind? What do you want to bring up?
Well, is there much going on these days? It's a pretty chill world out there. I mean, I think, right, I think all of us are, distracted, if you would, or just pulled into how crazy the world seems to be almost on a daily basis. And, it brings me back to, I was looking back, we made a video about 4 years ago where the title was "The Market Lives on a Different Planet Than We Do." And I think that's one of the most important parts of investing to comprehend is that we as people worry about things that the market doesn't care about. And the market cares about things that we as people tend to forget about. And what do we mean by that, right? That all the stuff that's thrown in front of us every day, we don't want to go through too long of a line, but if it's the political stuff, if it's the stuff with the new administration, if it's the word tariffs, which is tariffs on, tariffs off, who knows? We as people get very focused and pulled down by that. Where at the end of the day, what the market's looking at is, to be simple, Ben, is what's Microsoft's revenue? Is the revenue going up? And if the revenue is going up and their profitability is staying high, the market's happy. So I think that's what strikes me right now is we get so distracted by, the news of the day. And we as people, it makes sense. We get it. It's hard not to look at the news of the day and get concerned. But it's so important to remember that the market is looking at totally different things than we are. The chart below is a very well-known version, which we've shared in the past, is sort of simply titled Reasons to Sell. This just goes back, what I think, been about 20 years. Uh,
Yeah, since the great financial crisis, and a lot of these are like when it happened, they were huge events. Like people were scared, everyone was going to cash in their 401ks. But over the long term, it looks almost funny to look back at some of these events. Even recently, there was, I don't even know if it's on this chart, but about 2 years ago, all the bank crisis
yep,
per se, some of those where people thought the banking system was going to fail again, like it did in 2008. There's also the DeepSeek, the whole
yeah,
new AI, I guess Chinese, right? It's a Chinese
yep,
company
correct, yep.
that they thought made all of the United States domestic AI companies worthless. So it's just funny. Like, looking back, there's always something in the news that we think is going to ruin the economy, ruin the markets going forward, but the markets just have they do a good job of just carrying on.
Yeah, and I think again, it's because what the market cares about, right? And at the end of the day, it cares about, our company's going to do okay in the year or two ahead, and a lot of the stuff we worry about, it doesn't really impact companies to the way it impacts us as humans. But that's, to me, one of the hardest parts of investing is we're human, we have emotions. And I've said this many times, the market is a mean, non-emotional machine. And what's hard with us is we are the opposite, right? We tend to be nice, caring machines. So we worry about different stuff than the markets do. And I think in general, that leads us into this sort of topic of we're constantly drawn into thinking things are bad. Rarely does the news lead with, here's the good stories for the day. And this chart, Ben, I think we shared it back and forth in the office, is blew my mind. That if you look, this chart shows you the amount of times we've spent in recession as the United States over the last, it's called 125 years. And if you look early on in the first 50, 1900 to 1950, We spent somewhere around 25 to 30% of each decade in a recession. I can't believe that in the last 15 years, we've spent 3%, 3% of our time in the last 15 years in recession. Yet how many times do we talk about them? We've talked about 48 recessions, yet one has happened in the last 15 years. So I
Yeah.
think it blends in with that previous chart of we're always worried, always concerned, always talking about recession. We never give the credit or appreciate how strong and resilient this economy and market is.
Yeah. And imagine that, so that in the 2010s, it's 0% time spent in recession. Imagine you're telling someone in 2009, we're going back in time, we're telling them the next 10 years, you're not going to spend any time in recession. And this is when everyone was doom and gloom. They thought the economy, the banking system, nothing was ever going to recover. So hindsight's always 2020, but we like to think that there's more time spent not in recessions than in recessions, just like the chart shows. So
And I think, yeah, we'll lead into, I think we don't want to say things are always perfect, but I think it leads into our next discussion point is sort of, where we are and what you do, because we're not saying, hey, we think this thing only going to go up. So Ben, do you want to go over sort of some of our thoughts on this chart and where we see things today?
yeah, so an analogy I think we brought up in a previous video, but also we've been sharing a lot in client conversations is buy your winter jacket when the weather's nice. Because the weather's not always nice. We go through at least something once a year. In terms of the weather, it's either rainy periods or droughts or something. But there's
Or
always
January
something.
when it's 0 degrees everywhere, and we've been talking to a
Yeah.
client in Carolina today who had three different, they moved down there a couple of months ago and have had three snowfalls, and they were told we never get snow here. Yeah.
Exactly. So you don't want to be caught in that situation without a winter coat. So regardless, we're saying, kind of looking at the front end of this curve, that's the time that the market's not at all-time highs. So if you expand out, you zoom out over time, over 5+ years, the market's almost always going to be at all-time highs. The market just keeps going higher and higher. But there are those rare scenarios where in 1 to 2 years, maybe the market hasn't made an all-time high. So that's why we set aside cash for clients that need income. That's kind of our winter jacket. We're setting aside that security blanket, winter jacket, whatever you want to call it, for the bad weather.
Good. And like Ben said, our goal, right? We're not saying the weather's, going to get worse tomorrow, but we're saying is when the weather's nice, buy the jacket.
Yeah, and just we'll conclude this video with just kind of a brief update on where we sit. We never like to look at the short term, but a lot of times we get a lot of conversations. Why do we own XYZ? It hasn't done anything. But we would say diversification is something that is needed. I mean, you go through these periods where it looks like over the past 10 years, why in the world did we own any international? But the whole concept is there are periods of time where we want a zig and there's a zag. So the Magnificent Seven, everyone knows, like Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, all those companies, they've just been on a tear. But we've seen kind of a little divergence in 2025, which we'll see if it's a long-term trend. But we have seen some international outperformance. So uh, just kind of something to keep in the back of our minds that there is benefits to diversification. And even looking at some long-term period like 2000 to 2010, if you didn't have any international exposure, that was a huge risk to your portfolio. So we
And
do
I think
still like the
even,
U.S. markets, but we're happy to see some international that's coming back to life.
and I think you want one, as Ben and I were joking beforehand, I thought the word diversification wasn't even allowed to be used anymore. It hasn't worked in a while. You just had to own those seven companies, but it's great to see it working again. It's short term. It's only been a little bit, but you want diversification to work when the market gets a little bit more volatile. And the great sign we're seeing is this last 3 months has been choppy. Definitely different, a lot more volatility. As that volatility has picked back up, guess what? Bonds are being bonds. Bonds are protecting us like they're supposed to. And like Ben hinted, the international market is actually outperforming the US market over the last, whether you call it weeks or months. Again, we don't want to get too focused on short term, but we're excited. Things that we want to diversify us are actually working. So it's exciting from our end to see a couple different things working, and not just constantly talking about the Magnificent Seven all day. Although they've been amazing, right? They've been kudos to them. They are magnificent. Um, so again, just keep in mind this is a hard time to differentiate between the market's concerns and ours. And our job here, we tell clients over and over again, is to separate that we need to separate and think what the market cares about and focus on that, and do things like have that winter jacket ready for you when needed. In the meantime, we're here if you have questions, concerns. But Ben, anything else you'd want to add?
Just make sure to check out those educational videos, and we're always open to topics. So we'll continue to build that out. But until next time, we'll wrap this video up and stay tuned for the
Number
next one.
four. And if
Yeah.
one more quick plug, subscribe to our YouTube channel, right? So if you can subscribe, we'd love to get more subscribers. Then the benefit is once we post a video, instead of having to wait to get it via email, you actually get an instant notification that we've posted. Again, like we said, fire number four. Again, thank you for listening. Appreciate the support, the trust, the confidence.
Yep. Everyone go outside, enjoy the weather. We'll
All
see you
right.
next time.
See you, everyone.